In March of 2014, a man was hunting on the New Mexico-Texas border. This is his story. I am a hunter. I like to hunt wild boar specifically, though I have been deer hunting and have been known to get turkey for Thanksgiving. I mostly hunt boar. For those of you who don't know, boar are a big problem in the United States. A sow can have 2 litters a year, and it's not uncommon for a litter to consist of 10 or more pigs. Given that pigs eat anything and everything, it's not hard to see why the Department of Fish and Wildlife makes it legal to hunt them with almost no restrictions. In my state, it's illegal to hunt most large mammals with a night vision or a thermal scope, with the exception of boar and coyote. I've been saving for a year, mostly fun money. It's hard to explain to your wife that a scope that cost literally twice as much as the rifle I was mounting it on was worth it. But I finally did it. I took it to a range and sighted it in. There was an area that was peppered with boar activity that I knew would be perfect for a night hunt. It was easily accessible with my truck, with easy to find spots that I could set up in that overlooked a large, easy to navigate clearing. The night started uneventful, mostly me tinkering with my new toy, cycling through the settings. I was a little impatient. I spotted multiple deer, but they are out of season, and I could not legally hunt them with my current setup. Because of this, I decided to move to a new area that I had scouted days earlier. It probably wasn't much better than my first spot, however, it gave me something to do and a new angle to look around with my new scope. After an hour or so of glossing the area, it dawned on me. This spot has virtually no animal activity. No rabbits or owls. The deer that I'd seen hundreds of yards from where I was were gone. Why was this pocket of land so dead at night, but lively in the day? I set up around 10 p.m. and it was about 2 a.m. when I started to think about packing up. Maybe setting up a target before I left and taking some practice shots. But suddenly I heard a crunch come from the direction I came from before. I panned my scope over and saw the silhouette of a small bear push through the bushes. It's important to note that my scope isn't exactly night vision. It's a thermal scope, kind of like a black and white version of what you see in the Predator movies. After seeing this, I adjusted my range and zoomed in a little. I remember jolting a little when I saw that it wasn't really a bear. It was a man. Because he was so low and hunched over, I thought I was looking at a young bear. Is that a game warden? It couldn't be. I would have seen the headlights coming up the road from where I was perched. And where could he have walked from? I was 30 miles away from anything and on public lands. I was about to call out when I adjusted my sights and noticed he was naked. No shoes, pants, or anything. I remember being disturbed by his movements, like a squirrel or something, twitchy and grabbing at the foliage, sniffing around and palming the tree. Was that my tree? The one I'd been leaning against earlier? The thought terrified me. Could he smell me? Then he did something I still have nightmares about today. He squatted and placed his hands in the dirt between his feet and stared straight up like a dog mid-howl, and I heard it. A voice coming from the direction. A very compelling female voice. "Help! I'm lost!" There was a long pause, but neither of us moved a muscle. The center of my sights was trained at the dirt in front of his feet. I couldn't bring myself to aim directly at another person. It went against everything I've been taught about firearms. Were they lost? Was this some guy that had gone crazy out here? Why was his voice so feminine? "Help! Please, I can't walk!" the voice called out. That's when I called bullshit. Not only could he walk, when I first saw him traversing the land with ease for a naked person, so good I mistook him for a bear. That is a trap. This guy is trying to lure me to him with a damsel in distress routine. Luckily, the lack of activity before had caused me to pack up most of my gear. I think I may have left behind a hat and a sitting pad, but I didn't give a shit in the moment. I took my eyes off of him for a moment to get my pack on. I buckled my chest strap and scrambled for my rifle. To my horror, he was in the same position, but his face was staring directly in my direction. And I swear, I saw him smile. The thermal scope has an effect that makes animals' eyes appear white. How the hell had he heard me get up and put my gear on? He must have easily been 150 yards away. I screamed in his direction. However, as soon as I did this, I realized I made a big mistake. He stood upright, and it hit me how tall and skinny he was. Easily 6 feet tall and very lean. He took a couple of long strides in my direction, and I instinctively sent a round sailing above his head into the tree line. He was freaky as hell, but he hadn't really threatened me. What would I tell the cops? I was unwilling and unready to shoot someone. He immediately halted after hearing my gunshot. I yelled that I'd shoot again if he didn't back off. He hunched down on all fours after hearing me yell this, and kept his eyes above the grass so he could continue to look at me. I attempted to keep my sights trained on the center of him, however I was trembling from sheer fear at this moment, so it was really hard to keep a consistent grip on my rifle. If I yelled at him again, I knew my voice would crack, and I'd sound unconfident, so I kept the standoff going for about 2 minutes before he ran off. In a single second, he bolted left towards the tree line, opposite the road. So much for not being able to walk, I guess. I could barely keep him in my scope, he was moving so fast. He disappeared into the brush, and I sent another bullet sailing high in his direction. I attempted to switch magazines, however I was trembling too much and ended up dropping my fresh mag. I was too terrified to stay and look for it, so I bolted towards my truck, which was not too far away from the spot I was in. As I ran towards my truck, I could still hear him in the distance, yelling in this weird sound that could have been a laugh or a cry. I scrambled up the trail and arrived at my truck, breathless. I tossed my gear into the cab, but kept the rifle in the passenger seat and sped off. For the longest time, I told that story from the perspective of having spotted some deranged crackhead living off the land like some kind of caveman. I reported it to Fish and Game, but all they did was scold me for hunting at night alone. I never received an update about the situation. It wasn't until I told this story at a camping trip that my nephew told me about Wendigos, rakes, and skinwalkers. My story scared the piss out of him, because the spot we were camping was technically the same forest that I'd seen the bastard, just 50 miles east of it. He was so spooked, his mom, my cousin, had to take him home. She was really pissed. I've gone down the rabbit hole of these scary stories, and I'm not saying what I saw was definitely a Wendigo or a Skinwalker. I'm just saying that if such a thing exists, I may have dodged quite the bullet that night. Or maybe it's just a tweaker being Donny Thornberry in the middle of the night. Either way, thought I'd share. Now, the first thing that a lot of people will think upon reading a post like this is that it's a hoax. But I can say with 90% certainty that this post is not a hoax, and here's why. For one, OP does not seem to be a karma farmer. The OP seems to post on subreddits that they are passionate about. They don't seem to be constantly attempting to make up stories for karma or attention. This post was just a lucky break within their string of other posts related to subjects that they're passionate about. Secondly, although OP commonly posts on subreddits such as r/books, OP does not seem to be a professional writer or even a creative writer at that. Thirdly, and most damningly of all, OP has been able to give multiple hour-length interviews about his experience and stay consistent throughout them. So, assuming that OP's story is 100% true and that we can take his word on every single detail of the narrative, what is it exactly that he saw in the woods on that night? Of course, there's the theory posited in the title, that the thing that he saw this night was a skinwalker. Now, if you don't know what a skinwalker is, I've already made a quick video on my channel about what skinwalkers are, so click that little iCard in the corner if you want to know what a skinwalker is. But I don't personally believe that the thing that OP saw this night was a skinwalker. The reason for this is that I reached out to OP directly and he said this. I asked OP, at the current moment, do you believe what you saw was a crackhead or something more akin to a skinwalker? And OP responds with, I still feel like I saw a maniac. Like a wrong turn hillbilly. Human. I feel like it was exceptional human, but a human. For this reason, and also the fact that skinwalkers are cryptid, meaning that we don't know if they actually exist or not, and they're more of a mythical creature than anything, I'm going to have to agree with OP here and say that what he encountered was a crackhead or a crazy person, not a skinwalker. So with all that being said, this has been the story of u/Perpetual Connection, the Redditor who saw a crackhead through his thermoscope.